Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. If you are new, subscribe, hit the bell button, leave a like and comment. Obviously, we're going to talk about TradingView. Basic guide of how to kind of work it, essentially. Basically for beginners, okay? How the website works, what it's for, and ultimately how you can kind of track and follow assets, essentially. Crypto assets also. If you're in the foreign exchange, also if you're in the stock market, you know, investments, what is happening in the financial world. So, what you see here is obviously my setup. You can see here I'm a premium member. You get some of their top stuff on the top there. You get obviously notifications in terms of what's happening if people follow you and whatnot. Watch list, which we'll go over in a minute. But the first thing you need to do, obviously, when you make an account, it's probably going to be like, whoa, what is all this? You're always going to get a lot of information thrown at you. So obviously the market summary. These are ideas from people understanding stuff. So some of it is educational, some of it's like trading analysis sort of thing. There's a lot of information that could be thrown at you here. So in terms of all this, you're going to have all this stuff on the top bar. So you've got ideas, you got markets. So these are actually the markets in terms of stuff, the scanner and stuff. Scripts, so obviously if you've used our Hitman indicator, you can obviously understand how things will work and you can get all kinds of different bits and bobs. Screeners, obviously, kind of mentioned before. People do streams on here. You got other brokers and obviously you got your charts. So we'll go through all these kind of stuff first. So obviously the ideas, we're kind of halfway on that page anyways. And what these are just literally simple ideas in terms of what's happening in the market. So these are people, they're not financial advice, they're just people stating what they think. Moving on to obviously the markets, obviously I've already mentioned cryptocurrencies. You got normal currencies such as obviously Forex. You got stocks, indices, futures, and the bond market. So let's just say stocks. Go over to the large caps. Bosh, you've got all your stuff here. Most active, you know, what you can see what's happening. Obviously you can see a few decent ones here in terms of active. I wouldn't say decent, but you know what I mean in terms of what we know in terms of the news, why it's so active. And then when you scroll down on each one and you see the top authors, so the top ideas, what's happening, and then obviously the financial information. So literally you can get everything on this website if you so wish to. Moving on to the likes of the scripts. So if we go to editors, these can be added to your chart. So once we set up a chart, I'll show you this. Really simple. And again, you know, if you want to like look at this, so let's just say how to add one onto a chart, and I'll show you this in the custom side. All you do to these, essentially, obviously read the instructions, and then you go add to favorites. And then when you go to your indicators on the chart, it'll essentially tell you what is in your favorites. You press add, and I'll show you that in a bit. Screener, the obvious. It's a big massive bit of information that is thrown at you, so you can customize this. So I've got some random filters on here. Not quite sure, I never really use it, but you can filter off how much volume you want. So if you want something with a lot of liquidity, if you want to kind of like certain types of like market cap you can kind of search for, it'll remove some. Obviously different types of indicator volume and indicator kind of elements, what exchanges are on, what level of, you know, the MACD, maybe the momentum, all kinds of stuff like that, to kind of give you some sort of guide into what to trade. On to obviously the streams. This is obviously people talking random stuff here, so you can actually get involved in this and have a little look. Something I've never ever done before, but it's, you know, one of those things, it's kind of new. Brokers, again, if you're struggling to know what to go on to, or you know, evaluate your situation in terms of what you want to trade and how you want to trade, you can actually get on with some of these partners. So you can actually trade. I think on some of these you can actually trade off this account as well. You sync it all together, but these are obviously what they rate and stuff. Obviously broker rewards, you know, at the end of the day, they do look to try and you know, get you onto some really good ones. But let's go on to the main thing that we need to talk about, is obviously the charts, right? So in terms of my chart, you've probably already seen with some of mine. I've recently changed mine to a grey and white situation here, but you can fully customize these, right? You have indicators on the left, you have other stuff on the right. This is obviously a favorite panel, and obviously these. So when you go to the right hand side, it's actually your watch list. So for me, that's my watch list. Happy days. You know, you've got alerts, loads of alerts. You get news, so if you want to have the news on here, you can. So this is kind of a good feature. I don't actually have this on as much as I should, but if you're like thinking, well, what's happening in the world of crypto, cool. You've also got the data side of it. So if you want to look at kind of data, you can get all your your openings and closings and whatnot, and we're obviously 6% up today, as you can kind of allude to on this. Kind of cool. Moving on to something that's kind of alright as well is you got multiple little levels of like watch lists as well that you can put on here as well, but these are kind of like mainly for stocks, so not ideal, but you can kind of change these around and you can have all kinds of different countries. So if you're also involved in the stocks, it's kind of like the hot list. Essentially, it's pretty decent. Again, if you're in the Forex market, boom, your calendars, and then you've obviously got, you know, certain ideas and comments from your own ideas. And then you got obviously chats and idea streams. So this idea stream is from people in and around your situation. Streams, what is currently live on streaming, and then notifications, and obviously other bits and pieces in terms of the order side of it. But I wouldn't really worry too much about that. But if we go to obviously the watch list, you can obviously toggle what goes on and off this, which is relatively straightforward. You know, you just press the plus button and you add whatever you want to add onto there to keep an eye on it. So other things to look at. If you want to publish a chart, you press publish. Take a screenshot, it's kind of important. So if you want to share a chat with someone, you just press that button and it'll give you a link or save the image. Full screen, you got obviously settings which we'll go deep diving in a minute. And obviously you can split screen depending on what circumstance and certain screens you've got and ultimately what package you've got. You know, boom, you can fill your boots and you can do multiple screen layouts. Replay, so you can go back in time and replay certain situations to make a cool little diagram. Obviously alerts, templates, you can get some basic templates in and around stuff for certain things if you so wish to. Financial metrics, now this is mainly for the stock market, so you can kind of like have a little look at certain things. Not really that important for crypto, but the main thing obviously indicators, which we'll go over in a minute. Compare, so you can compare this with other charts, and obviously the different types of candles and stuff that you so wish to. Heikin-Ashi and ultimately normal candles is the most popular in my opinion, but again, you've then got time frames. In terms of other things to keep an eye on, you've obviously got your own profile, so you can make your own profile if you so wish to. All that kind of good stuff is all here, but there's absolutely tons here. Again, you've obviously got the screener at the bottom as well that you can use if you want to get somewhere quick. But yeah, cool. So we're going to make a new chart. We're just going to go over it and make a new chart. So we're going to create a new chart layout here. It'll open a new page, and this is kind of what you get as a default setting. Whether you're on white or black in terms of like your background, or dark mode, whatever it is, you can ultimately change that. But for me, like, it's entirely up to you how you do it, but you need to go right click into settings, and then you've got all this information. So first off, start off with the main thing, right? If you want to as well, if you go into this little bit here, you can add it to sharing, but you can also rename it. So let's just say YouTube. You know, we can make a little chart set up here. Some people do them differently in terms of trading view. I personally have one chart set up for everything, and I just toggle through my watch list, so it's all the same. Everyone's a bit different, obviously. Obviously, I can see how crazy things are going, but this is the default setting. I don't mind the default, to be honest with you, but I personally like to customize it quite a lot. So the first thing that I like to do is obviously change the body of the candles, but it's entirely up to you what way you want to do it. There's two ways. Obviously, if you want to go from the candles, you can, but I would rather go with appearance first and ultimately allow the sort of situation to kind of like present some sort of, you know, you can kind of play around with it and kind of get into the grip of, you know, what sort of situation you want from the appearance side of it. Then you can do the candles last. Personally, I remove the grids because it adds a little bit of confusion, so I'll make it all clear. In terms of the scale text, because that's why I'll put it black, and you know, you'll start to see very, very clearly that I'm quite OCD, but everyone's different. Everyone is totally different. So I'm going to go with a black and white sort of background here, but with a different type of color candle. Watermark, you can have that on if you so wish to, but it's entirely up to you. But that's like the basic side of it in terms of, right, ultimately building some sort of situation. If you then go to the likes of trading, you can obviously remove the positions, but there's other things as well, scales. You can see here how you can have certain things toggle on and off. You can make things change. You can make things much neater and tidier. You know, for me, fundamentals of any sort of layout is, can you read it? Does it look good? I personally like to have the least amount of stuff on my top ticker up here, because then it starts to kind of make it very, very confusing when you start seeing too much going on. So I like to keep it nice and clean so I understand it. And then the main thing is obviously candles. We need to look at candles. One thing I am going to do though, just to let you know, I'm going to remove the volume because I don't tend to use that often. It's not really my sort of thing, but there we go, right? I want to change the candle colors. I'm not sure what candle colours to go for. Might go for an orange kind of look, which is kind of interesting, I know. And then we'll probably go for a grey sort of level for the wicks, maybe a bit light, no, maybe a bit darker actually, yeah. We'll go black. There we go. So we're going to start seeing how that kind of looks all right, you know, random, I know, but that's the kind of thing that I like to I like to have things look a bit different. Obviously, you see on my chart, it's currently grey and white in line with the Crypto Mobster brand. This obviously doesn't really relate too much to the Learning Crypto purple, but if I so wish to, I can. But as I say, you can kind of toggle this whatever. If you want to have it, you know, you can. If you want to have it purple, you can have whatever colour you want as well, which is pretty damn cool. So you can have purple and black if you so wish to, or maybe even purple and a grey, so it looks a bit neater and tidier. To be honest with you, that doesn't look too bad, does it? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a different kind of colour. No, we'll stick with black, so it stands out. I might make the wicks. You will probably notice that you can fiddle around with this for ages, but to be honest with you, I do like the orange look. There we go. A lighter orange. It's not in line with the branding colours, but I do think that looks pretty neat anyways. Other things, obviously, you got certain price lines you can have, if high and lows, obviously dividends as well. There's all kinds, right? So in terms of that is a simple lines. Obviously, once you zoom in, you can kind of see certain things. It looks nice, neat, tidy, simple sort of stuff, simple situation. But you've also got all these kind of other indicators here on this side. So obviously, you've got trend lines. If you go onto the side, you can obviously favorite them, which will add them into this bottom bit. So as you can see here, you can toggle different ones. Obviously, you've got different indicators such as the Fibonacci. You got obviously texting tools. Obviously, you can write text and do stuff. There's a lot you can do, right? One thing to go through is obviously indicators. So as I said before, going back to the scripts, if you go to add to favorite, you can add them. So let's just say, for example, with us, the Hitman. Advanced market momentum indicator, once you've added that, you can obviously change from the default settings if you so wish to. You know, essentially what sort of settings you want, you know, in terms of strength. Obviously, once you start playing around with it, it gets really, really interesting. You know, it's entirely up to you how you want to do it, but you just play around with this and the strategy tester, which I'll show you in a minute. But if you wanted a simple sort of setup, you know, that realistically isn't too bad. I'm not quite sure. Maybe if we go a bit lower, maybe change this to 1.7 maybe. There we go, we start to get some interesting little dynamics here. So there you go, that is a daily time frame. That's not bad, is it? Not bad at all. But as I say, you can obviously customize this. So on any indicator, you can always toggle. So you may want to make this in line with the branding colors and maybe make it not as clear, so not as boldish, just to kind of give you an idea of how things will look overall. But again, it's all personal preference. Obviously, there is other indicators out there you can obviously use, for example. So other indicators, you get some built-in ones. So these are obviously the main ones. So for example, moving average, very, very popular. Exponential moving average, you can add one of these on. Very, very simple. Again, go to your settings and then you can change the length. So if you want to use, say, for example, an 8 and you leave it as it is, then you can change how this looks as dynamic. You can make it nice and thick. You can make it not as transparent, so it kind of is a bit more faint. So it looks a bit neater and tidier if you so wish to have that. So this gives you an idea. Obviously, these other indicators out there, there's loads, let's be honest. RSI, again, it's all going to look very, very different. Obviously, relative strength index. Obviously, learn more about this on our courses. That's the default layout. Personally, how I like to have mine, I like to have mine on the top. I like to have it a bit thinner as well, so it's quite neat and tidy. But I also like to change up how I have mine looking. So I like to basically get rid of the backgrounds, keep it as it is, maybe just toggle that off. And I like to have these nice and obvious colors. You know, you can obviously change this in such a way that it's just simple. It's just very, very simple. And there you go, you can kind of see the whole levels there. But for me, fundamental wise, it's entirely up to you how you do it. But, you know, it keeps it very, very simple. But as you look at this, it's looking quite interesting. Obviously, when you then toggle over and look at the Bitcoin chart, what have we got? Well, we've got some strength there in that setting. Go on each one. You can kind of see how well this Hitman indicator is working for everyone here. But yeah, look at that for a good one. Boom. So that is in terms of basic setup. There's not much else to go on other than that. Obviously you've got other indicators and you can change all this. So for example, Fibonacci, you can obviously toggle the colors in terms of that. You've obviously got going long or going short. You can again toggle the colors. The same for horizontal lines, same for rectangles, all these kind of boxes here. You can basically go into them and then set the colors, make it nice and neat. In my opinion, chart hygiene is the most important thing. You want to make it nice, easy to look at, easy on the eye, so you can understand your analysis, so you can understand certain things. You don't want to be looking at things and it's a complete and utter pile of dung essentially. So if you're looking at this as an example here, and you're looking at certain levels where it could retrace, the obvious level here is obviously there, the 618 level. And again, when you remove that, you've got a nice little bit of layout there that looks quite neat and tidy, so you can understand where potentially this could fall. Again, we'll see what happens with this. Bitcoin is currently moving quite hard right now, and USD prices are slowly catching up. But again, that's for another day. Anyways, I think we're done. I think I've gone through pretty much everything as a basic standard. Again, you can save each chart layout and you can use each one. You can obviously toggle them, you can save them. Obviously saving that, it looks pretty cool. But yeah, I hope you enjoy.